WRFU here, Banner 104.5. Thank you for staying through this and listening to the show throughout the technical difficulties. Going to give you the legal disclaimer as always. WRFU is an open forum for the Urbana Champaign community. Views expressed of those as speakers and non-tenant represent WRFU, UCIMC, Urbana Social Fund, Airshift is UPTV, UI Channel 7, University of Illinois College of Medicine, University of Illinois Foundation, or anybody else, man. These thoughts and words are ours and ours alone. I'm about the business and I don't care who listens. We go and talk about topics that matter to the community, and matter to us, and matter to me. So when you hear these issues and conversations, we're not trying to get at anybody the wrong way. Again, these are just our thoughts and words and belong to no one else. We're going to have an important conversation, but before we could begin, we're going to go around the room and give us a quick mic check and tell them who you are and where you're coming from.
I am Jerehme Bamberger. I live out in North Urbana, and I work with the Champaign Urbana Citizens for Peace and Justice.
I'm James Kilgore. I live in Champaign, and I also work with Champaign Urbana Citizens for Peace and Justice, known as CUCPJ for short.
I'm Martel Miller, concerned citizen.
Still. And of course, I'm your host as always for the show. Thank you to Tom, who's working in the backdrop through all the technical difficulties. I want to thank everyone who's staying tuned with us. We're going to have a very important conversation about an issue which pertains to the prison industrial complex, which is being presented to the community, which has been going on and sort of culminating very recently with a lot of tension at a forum which will be transpiring in the coming week. First off, what is the issue we're going to talk about? One of you want to bring it to the forefront?
Well, we're talking about the fact that the county jail, the county board is proposing or considering a proposal to build new jail cells in East Urbana to the tune of something like $20 million. They're claiming that they need this because they say the downtown jail, which was built in 1980, is no longer fit to be used. But we believe that that's just kind of a smokescreen, and that there are much better ways to spend $20 million in Champaign County than spending it on jail cells.
Now, the reality is that even though the board is considering now, there's a proposal, it's not necessarily, there's no proposal officially to build a jail, but there's another issue that's going on, like a study that's being conducted.
Right. Well, what happened in the first 6 months, since late January 2012, is that there have been a small core of county officials, the sheriff, Dan Walsh, the state's attorney, Julia Reitz, a couple board members, who have been advocating openly in and out of public meetings the construction of a new extension onto the satellite jail in East Urbana. Now, they had planned to start the process of hiring an architect in March of this year.
Wow. That's a very quick process from January to March.
That's right.
That means they must have had I wish I had the boo sign. When you, boo!
we had them there. That's why they didn't get it done.
That's right. Yeah. So the least, once anybody started asking any questions, they really kind of had to at least say, all right, we're going to gather some information before we take this huge step and build this huge project. So that's what we're working through now, yeah.
And maybe it's important to add also that part of the inspiration for this is the fact that the sheriff, the state's attorney, and board members attended a workshop in Colorado last year, which the sheriff called a How to Build a Jail workshop, sponsored by the National Institute of Corrections. So basically, they bring people together from different parts of the country and show them how to build a jail, not only the architecture, the construction, but also the political process of basically ramming it down the throat of the community to get them to accept it.
Is that really what the workshop is called? How to build a jail? Or he paraphrased?
It's planning new institutions.
Right. But the sheriff called it that.
Wow. And so who funds that?
The DOJ?
Department of Justice?
Department of Justice.
Yeah, but we pay for it from our quarter centile sales tax that they had told us that they were going to stop it when they finish building the juvenile center and the courthouse, and that they never gave the public a chance to vote on that. We want to continue to pay that public sales tax, that quarter-cent sales tax.
Wow. So I'm just trying to imagine the sort of the gall within those officials to be able to just say that we're going to spend $20 million. And so, what was the reaction, from your vantage toward this? Were you accepting of the proposal and the notion, or what was your reaction when you heard this? And speak loudly so we can hear you.
My reaction that $20 million could be used in so many different ways in this county other than building a jail. And I think they should explore that than building another jail, because both of our jails are probably new jails in this state, because most of the jails in this state is probably 75 years old to 100 years old.
Dang, 75 to 100. I was not aware of that. Okay. And what about reactions from your side to the proposal?
Well, I mean, we felt from the beginning, as Martel was saying, that there's better ways to use the money, but also that this is part of a bigger project, you know, of mass incarceration in the United States. The growing of prisons and jails, locking up of more and more people, particularly African Americans, and this happens not only at the state level, at the national level, but it happens at the local level. And so we felt that we were part of a much bigger kind of situation as well, and the fact that the National Institute of Corrections was taking people from this county to sort of brainwash them and make them the drivers of this project, you know, the plot became a bit thicker and bigger than just a jail.
And your reaction, Jeremy?
Well, I was shocked that the county wanted to take on another $20 million in debt. Because this $20 million number that we throw around is a number developed by the county administrator and kind of used by the sheriff in their planning. And it comes from the income we get from the public safety sales tax.
I feel safe already.
And that income is going to be used, if they get their way, to pay off over time a $20 million in debt that they would issue as bonds. So they would get all the money up front as a loan, basically, from the taxpayers of Champaign, also brokered through banks, and then pay that loan off over time through the public safety sales tax. So, you know, whenever alternative perspectives are brought to the county board saying, how about alternatives to incarceration, they can say they're broke, but when it comes to building a jail, well, we can scare up the money somehow.
And they take in $4 million a year from the sales tax, so it's not small money. And once again, we can think of a lot of things to do with $4 million a year besides spend it on locking people up.
And I think the county board should give the people an opportunity to vote. Do they want to continue the sales tax, like they were told in the beginning? But they took the sunset clause off of that. Well, without the people really even knowing that they did.
And you know, I'm kind of shocked that they even like had a planning session out in another state where they recruited people, because it almost seems, I mean, I know that we're saying the Department of Justice may have funded this, but I still feel like this is something which is going to be funded in large part by the prison industrial complex in terms of ensuring that there's a steady line of customers and building the next prison, because if you're not constantly building new prisons and ensuring that there's a new space to put people, then you're limiting the demand for your supply of building prisons, and then making sure that they're going to be incarcerated. So now they were proposing this in January. They got stopped in March by all the tension and reaction from the community. Where are we at now?
Well, because of the community pressure, the county board took the decision to do a needs assessment and to hire a consultant to do a needs assessment. And so there was also a lot of debate about what that needs assessment would include, whether it was just going to be looking at the possibilities of new buildings, or whether we should look at a much broader range of issues, including alternatives to incarceration. So eventually they put this out to tender, a broader needs assessment of the criminal justice system in Champaign County, and in June they interviewed 4 companies to screen them to employ them for the needs assessment, and they have ranked one firm at the top now, and we're waiting to see if they'll finalize the contract with them actually fairly soon in terms of the board meetings coming up.
Do we know the name of that company? Is it Prison Consultants Express?
No. Actually, this company.
Just kidding. Quote me on that, like, you know.
What is it? This company is called ILPP from Berkeley, California. They're actually
the Institute for Law and Policy Planning.
and they're the ones that
Like gladiator style.
they're better than the other three by far. They're the other the other three were closely tied to architects. So, and in fact, they were going to recommend construction because they were also going to participate in the money of the construction.
I see.
ILPP has
Dirty
declared
money.
they don't have anything to do with construction.
Mm-hmm.
If they do a needs assessment, they vow that they won't get any money from the construction. So they look at alternatives a bit more than the others.
Do you guys have any faith in that process? Straight up. I mean, just give it a real like.
I think the county ought to look at what do the county really needs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we don't need a jail. We got a jail. We just need to deal with the problem of the jail. We had a problem. The jail that we have was deal with poor maintenance. Do the maintenance on the jail.
Mm-hmm.
Put programs in the jail so we don't have the return of the same people, and put programs in there. Our county do need 100% early learning. You get all our kids in Head Start. We can start there. And that's what we need to get the county board to look at. The real needs of the community, not a jail. And that's I think we need to figure out how we can move this public safety tax into thing to assess the community. And that's how I look at it.
What about you, fellas? Do you have any faith in this process?
Some. Like ILPP definitely, they gave a good presentation. They have a broad experience, so they've definitely recommended alternatives to incarceration in certain circumstances. They've also recommended building jails in certain circumstances. The thing which each of these firms said, they're all consultant firms. So what are they going to do? They're going to act as a consultant for the project that you set out for them. And so this really is on the county board, as far as I'm concerned. The county board has to step up and say, we want to know about alternatives to incarceration. If they don't say that, if all the direction comes from the sheriff and the state's attorney, and
I don't even know these people, honestly. I'm sure they're good people.
I'd boo them.
But I think the faith in the process comes from whether or not we can mobilize people in the community to keep the pressure on. If we're going to get the only reason we have the limited positive results we have right now is because people from the community have been going week after week to these county board meetings and doing a lot of mobilizing around this issue, and that pressure has to continue. If we just leave it to the county board members, to the consultants, we're going to have a nice shiny jail out here in another couple of years.
I like shiny. But I'll tell you, I probably was early 90s, I think someone had told me this, that basically the new prisons are based off of the scores and academic achievements of 4th and 5th graders.
Right.
That's how they decide how many prisons to build. And I remember when I heard that as a young child, I was like, and as an adolescent, I'm like, that's just plain stupid. I just thought to myself, why not take those kids and provide programs to them to help catch them up? It's always shocking to me the sort of reflex that people have toward whether it's scholars from marginalized populations or the poor to quickly tunnel them into the prison sort of industrial complex and channel that we have, the pipeline that we have between schools and why not spend the money on these preparatory programs? Why not, like you're saying, start them in Head Start? Why do you think it's so quick to do that? What's your take on why are they comfortable with that?
Now in prisons, you make products, and the new slave labor is out of prison. You pay them 12 cents an hour, and you reach your Constitution. The only way you can go back to slavery on the Constitution if you in the penal system, and so it's the new slavery, and you can pay the same wages that you pay the people that's in India and the third world countries. You can pay them the same wages. When you're paying them $8 a day over there, you can pay a prisoner $8 a day over here, so you can match the wages you pay to make the products you make over there. They're making computer panels, they're making fiber optics, they're making all kinds of stuff in prison now. So you got to see how the 1% plan to make their money. That's how I look at it.
I mean, there's also the war. There's also this war on drugs that Reagan and other politicians have been driving for years and years, and that war on drugs has built up a life of its own. People who make money off of it, people who believe in punishment, in law and order, and all these sorts of things. And police forces have been getting beefed up through this war on drugs. They're getting forfeiture money. They're getting, if they arrest drug dealers, they get to keep the money. They get to keep the cars. They get to keep the houses to build up their own police force. So everybody's got a finger in the pie here. So there's all that, and we know that most of that has been directed in inner city African American and Latino communities.
What about you? Why do you think they're so quick to spend this money on a prison and a jail rather than other options?
Well, everything that y'all said is absolutely right on. In terms of our local situation, I think a lot of the motivation to build this jail is ego, actually. I think that, the people who are driving the building process want to have a nice little line on their resume that says, I built a jail, because it's a huge project. It takes a lot of management, it takes a lot of money, it takes a lot of political acumen. This is something that you can bring on to your next job and say, look what I did. Because Tom Betts doesn't get anything out of building a jail, but he, until very recently, was its most vocal proponent on the county board.
That's kind of shocking that you would even say that, because I'm thinking to myself, who in the world would want to be associated with building a prison to incarcerate people? There's no...
Lots of people.
Yeah, I know. And I'm sure that there is. It's just shocking to me, because that's nothing that would ever come to my mind as being a positive for a community. You know what I'm saying? I don't view it in that regard. And so, that's just mind-boggling.
It's horrifying.
In terms of the prison system, like I said, though, many people may not know that. Martel brought up the issue of the slave labor associated with it. People don't realize they do produce lots of different products, whether it's license plates or computer parts. You'd be amazed if you go onto the list, and also the companies that employ these people. You'd be amazed at how many major companies utilize this as a mechanism to produce their products at a very, very discounted rate. And I'm wondering to myself, why can't you pay them a regular wage? Why, if you are going to do that, why are they able to only pay them 12 cents? And I know there's all these rules about how much you can pay them and blah, 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 but I'm like, how can you get over like that with good conscience? Obviously if you're a capitalist, leech, I guess you could say, then that makes total sense. But from my vantage, it's just completely bizarre and inappropriate, and a mechanism that needs to be addressed in order for this system to be sort of reversed in terms of the impact on our communities.
And you look where they put the prisons at. Prisons are not put in urban areas. They put in most of our prisons are in southern Illinois, but most of the people come from urban areas to go to the prison. They're not even near their family members.
Exactly.
To hold a support system for the people that's in prison. And it makes it hard on the family. It makes it so hard, but it creates jobs in these other areas. And right now, Illinois wants to close down prisons, and you got the state does, but you got the prison union want to keep them open, and you just got to look at the dynamics of that, and the people need to look at that. Do we really need all these prisons for these non-violent people? And if you look at history, black people were not in prison until they got their civil rights. We was in the United States, in the southern states, where you would think we were overpopulating prisons with the black race in that time, with Jim Crow and all that, we were less than 25% of the prison. In federal prison, we were less than 5%, we like 2% of federal prison. And 40 years later, look at the population we fill in the prison. And it's not from violent crime. It's from the drug war. It's something that the government created themselves. From Oliver North and them flooding our cities with drugs. And right now, if you look at the heroin situation, it's from Afghanistan. And that's what's on our street. How can we have Afghanistan heroin on our street and our military is supposed to control Afghanistan? That needs to be answered somewhere down the line. Maybe I'm off the subject, but I'm going to throw that out there.
Well, I think when you're talking about people being in there for drugs and nonviolent crimes, we did a quick spot check of the women because it's mainly women in the downtown jail. So we did a quick spot check of how many women are in that downtown jail for violent crimes. Not a single one. No homicides, no sexual violence, no assault, nothing involving a weapon. Not a single woman is in there. We have 7. There was 36 women in there. 7 of them are in there for traffic offenses. They're in there for minor possession. One was in there for resisting arrest, but she wasn't charged with anything else.
You know that game. We know what that game is.
So so they're claiming that they're fighting crime, but who is it that they're locking up? And once again, it's more than half African American women in this. Just like the whole situation, it's always more than half African Americans in this county jail, even though African Americans are only 12% of the population as a whole.
And then if you look at the driving issue, a big percentage of the county jail is males for driving, black males for driving. But then you look at our numbers for racial profiling. You're breaking the law to make the law to put them in jail. And like I say, this conversation go to other conversations when I'm talking, but it's still contained to the jail issue. And then you look how to prosecute. 50% of the charges are dropped that come into the prosecutor. Who's she dropping charges on? Because it's 90% of us, the charges stick. So how, if the laws are the same for both, for the people, how do they get most of their charges drop and all our charges stay? How does she choose to do that in this county? Them questions need to be answered before we even start to build this county jail. So, and maybe some of these numbers will drop if our prosecutor can answer this question to the public. How does she does that? Because one time I heard on the radio that she don't charge campus students with felonies because they got another life to live. They got a future. She said that publicly.
Woo!
So our kids don't have a future, is what she's saying. And I'd like for her to explain that one of these days. Just come out in front of, have a public meeting and say to the people, these people over here don't have a future because they don't go to school, and these kids do. And see how much votes she get and how much support she get.
I mean, we touched on a lot of different issues right now in terms of the impact of the prison industrial complex, not only on the nation, but as the community as a whole here within Urbana, Champaign. People never realize this. I mean, if you're in the University of Illinois or at Parkland, you're kind of sort of in your own little world because you don't have to deal with any of these issues. You can go to and from your house and be blind to everything on you. You can have the blinders, cut your eyesight off from anything that's going on. You know, you can read the articles you want, visit the websites you want, and never pay attention to anything that's going on. But this situation has been simmering and stewing for quite a long time. And like I said, this is not something that just is pertinent to Urbana, Champaign, because you brought up the issue of people being arrested in urban centers and then being moved out to these rural suburban areas where there's a lack of support structure, and it puts strains on families and communities. You know, I have personal family members myself where we can't visit people all the time, and that's a huge issue because, you know, family is such a huge component within in everyone's community, and when you can't see someone on a regular basis, it creates a whole psychological barrier and structure that is hard to overcome because a person in isolation starts to just be subjected to different issues you can't even imagine when they don't have that support. And so, like again, we're touching on different issues, but with the county board considering this prison jail, the $20 million bond, we put now the notion of this feasibility study, which is going to be conducted by this consulting group. There's an event which is going to transpire September 21st, 2012. What is this about? Tell folks out there what this event is and what's going on with this.
I'm going to start with, I'm hoping that people come to the event because it'd be very knowledgeable for them, because we have speakers there talking about other ways than being incarcerated, and then it will show the community that other people concerned are other than the people that you see talking all the time. You know, and I think we need people to show up. And
we have people from different sectors of the community. We have Gilberto Rosas from the Immigration Forum will speak. We have Reverend Jerehme Bamberger, who's the head of the local Black Chamber of Commerce. We have Diana Lennick, who's with the ACLU, who's going to talk about the racial discrepancies in the jail. We have Diane Zell, who's the president of the local chapter of the National Alliance on Mental Illness, because there's a large number of people in jails with mental illness because they've been closing down the mental health facilities. And then I'll also be speaking representing Citizens with Conviction, an organization that fights for the rights of formerly incarcerated people.
So, in terms of this event going forward, what would you like to see come out of it? Right? Because again, this is a public forum. You can hopefully hear different perspectives and opinions on how we can build alternatives to prison system or county prison. What would you like to see come out of this?
The opportunity here, especially with the range of speakers we have, hopefully people from each of their worlds will come and participate. The opportunity here is really to start bringing people together and helping people see, giving people an opportunity to see how all of their interests overlap in opposing the expansion of any kind of carceral apparatus in Urbana-Champaign. The mental health services need to be expanded. We can hopefully get some of the money that would have been used to pay off the debt that would have been used to build the jail to expand those services,
I'm hoping that we can get the county board members to look at that quarter sales cents for that they're using for the jail to put it towards something else.
Quarter cent sales tax. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
To change the direction where that money would go. Probably the social issues to mental health and something like that, instead of being used for where they control it for talking about public safety and only be used for jail purposes and stuff like that. It should be broadened to early trial learning, mental health, and something like that. That public sales tax is going to continuously be paid since they haven't stopped it. I don't think people would mind paying that public sales tax and to help people in other matters, but I don't think they want to take $20 million to $50 million, throwing it into incarcerating somebody. I think they would put it into helping somebody over the 50 years, but not put it in the jail for 50 years.
Mm.
And the way that tax is set up right now, they have 5% of the money set aside for youth education, and all the rest of it is going for jail construction, paying a couple cops' salaries, things like that. It's all law enforcement, and that's what they talk about when they talk about public safety. And we think public safety, as Martel has said, is much bigger than having more police and more jail cells.
They're putting a few $100,000 every year, $100,000 every year into paying off the utilities for the courthouse, to enhance our public safety.
It's shocking when you guys talk about it, because like you touched on it, like $20 million is definitely not what it will cost to build this prison. That's just out of my advantage. You know how any government program, it just gets bloated as we talk about it. So 50 million or going up towards that is definitely what's going to happen. It's definitely not going to be under 20 million. No, we can be certain of that.
Right.
They're going to find a way to keep adding onto the bill once they've got it passed, or if they do try to propose it. And also, like you said, early start training and also transition programs to help minimize recidivism rates, because oftentimes people get out of this prison industrial complex and they've been so mentally subjugated by that system that when they come out here, they're like back to another world that they're not ready for. They need other programs, whether it's mental health services, job training, etc., to help minimize the likelihood of them coming back to the jails. Because if the issue was lack of employment or lacking the skill set to be able to get a job, then obviously building more jails is not going to address that. They're just going to come right back afterward because there's no opportunities for them, or they don't feel the self-esteem or mechanism to be able to to help themselves.
The state is closing down jails, and we're building a new jail. Now, and that means if you build it, you're going to fill it. And if they're closing down jails where you're going to send people, that means you're going to hold people more in the county jail. So we got to look at what is these people are thinking, and these elected officials too. So, and I'm going to say to the public, if we don't like what these elected officials doing, it's easy to get rid of them. We can vote them out.
That's right.
And we are start looking at voting them out.
So let's get some closing thoughts. Well, first off, the event is September 21st, 2012, from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Urbana City Building on Vine Street. It's a town hall forum, public forum, on alternatives to incarceration. CU Citizens for Peace and Justice and various other organizations and speakers will be present there represented to help discuss this issue and deliberate on it. But give some closing thoughts from your vantage about, the circumstances, situation, just what you would want to share with someone out there who's listening to this who may be on the opposite end of the spectrum, completely opposed to what you're saying, or someone who's in favor of what you're thinking and you want to help to fortify them and encourage them to attend.
I mean, I'd say that this is a great time to get involved in this campaign. We're not right in the middle of anything. The last big decision just happened a couple weeks ago, but there's a very long road ahead. The likelihood is that they will hire a consultant. Once that consultant gets hired, we have to keep track of everything they do and have to be in constant conversation with them. That's a great opportunity for anyone who wants to have their voice become a part of this process. And there are lots of other ways to plug in too. It's really a ripe spot for someone to jump on board.
And I think the jail issue is a way to bring together people and highlight the sort of orientation of local government, the moves toward inequality, the moves toward law and order instead of moves toward social justice. So by bringing together people from mental health, from that represent the immigrant community, represent African American community, and so forth, we want to build that kind of broader social movement that can fight for social justice in the county. And I think the jail issue is one piece that can bring people together and find ways together to use that $20 million in a better way.
And me, I'm going to talk to the young minds. I think the young people ought to come because this is a way that you can get involved in social justice and learn about what goes on in your community, especially you're only here for 4 years. You need to get involved in the community that you're staying in for 4 years, and this is a way to just get involved in something that while you're here and learn about some of the things going on in Champaign.
That's right. We don't live in a vacuum, folks. Situations and circumstances going on, you do have a greater impact and you do have a role in ensuring that they come out the right way or the way that they should be. So, okay, folks, it's WRFU up here, Urbana 104.5 FM. I want to thank the gentleman for coming on the show, coming on here and having a conversation with me. I'm also mentioning that on Saturdays is the CU Citizens for Peace and Justice meetings at 4 p.m. at the Independent Media Center located at 202 South Broadway in Urbana, Illinois. Again, it's the CU Citizens for Peace and Justice meetings from 4 to 6 p.m. at the IMC Independent Media Center, the old post office in Lincoln Square, north of it, north entrance of Lincoln Square Mall. Go there into the Independent Media Center, old post office, and you'll go there and have meetings to discuss civic engagement, social justice issues, the prison industrial complex, and the issues going on throughout the community. I want to thank you all for staying tuned with us. It's a show, WRFU here, Urbana 104.5 FM. If you ever want to hit me with some feedback, you think I'm an idiot, want to give me some criticism, I'm never too good for critique. You can always email us at WRFU@theshow1045.com, WRFU@theshow1045.com. I'd like to thank Mr. T, who's in the background, doing all the hard work and engineering. And if you want to visit the website, go out there, www.theshow1045.com. We have an album coming out October 15th. Hopefully you folks can stay tuned and listen to that. Otherwise, I want to thank you for staying tuned. We're going to go back into the music. Thank you, Tom, for sticking with us, man. Thank you for everybody who's out there. Benny showing us to my grandmother, my godmother back in New York and Puerto Rico. Send my love out to my family and friends, wherever they may be. Peace.